once you're able to build that kind of community of people, and know that you're not alone in your experiences, that you might be able to go out and educate others. But I don't think you can, like, at least for myself, I don't think I would have the courage to just automatically have that hard conversation if I don't have that hard conversation with myself and with others who are at least ready to listen.
Yeah, because not everyone's ready to listen, and people are afraid of confrontation. So it's like, for the people who've experienced that, they don't want to go out of their way to like have that conversation with people because they're going to get confronted and maybe yelled at, whatever the case is.
And for a few of the videos I've seen, like where people explain why they think safe spaces are such a bad thing, basically what it seems like, or what I understand, is that, for example, one person's like, okay, well, my parents have gone through worse, so why is it that, you know, they're basically saying it's progress, and it's like, we're getting there, but we're not there. And now there was one stage where, you know, you'd get beat if you were to like voice your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're just getting like a mean tweet, is what I'm quoting the person that said it. And so they're saying, why is it that we as people can't just handle these tinier microaggressions because our parents went through worse, in the hopes of working towards like a goal where, you know, maybe your children or your children's children wouldn't have to go through that. So what do you guys think about that, in the sense of, should we even be waiting like that? Because that's what, basically what I understood is that, you know, like, this is just a part of the stage, like, just go through it, your kids will be better off.
I think that, like, especially with that, because how we were talking about, it kind of pulls you back. If you're taking steps forward, you need a safe space, because the amount of trauma that's put on you, if you're taking steps and you don't have anywhere to be comforted in, because a lot of people, when they talk about like parents had it a lot worse, then you think about the generational trauma that's been put on those parents because they had it worse. And that's what, like, everybody talks about, like, generational barriers and like breaking trauma and stuff like that. And that can't happen if you don't have a safe space that understands those things that you also went through.
I feel like it invalidates your experiences. Just because somebody had it worse than you doesn't mean that what you're experiencing isn't bad already.
But on the flip side of that, like, if you've experienced trauma, you can't go, you can't seek solutions and answers from the people that are also going through it, because they don't have it themselves either. There has to be a way to, you know, explore it on a deeper level where there's experts that are in the scene that can help, because if there was answers for it, then we wouldn't be going through it, right? And so I think that we also need to like get out of our own bubble and also talk to other people, because it's not just that certain group's problem, it's everyone's problem, because we're all living in the society together. So like, it's important that we have the right tools and the resources to also support these safe spaces, because those safe spaces can easily turn into very toxic spaces too.
Yeah, because there'd be a lot of ganging up on other people, and then if they have that conversation, they'll be like, oh well, we're not like, they won't say this necessarily, but it's like, when I was in that safe space, they didn't say that to me. Like, you're messed up for having that opinion. People are scared. Like, people are scared to say things nowadays, man. Everyone's scared to say something, and no one can have a negative opinion on that. Because if you do, it's like, oh, you're immediately, whatever the case is, bigoted or this or this. That's literally what it is. So, to your point, on the flip side, that safe space can garner a lot of toxicity at the end of the day, because then it's just like, oh, well, like, let's all band together and hate this person because they thought something different, you know? So
and that's why empathy is so important, because like, screw all that stuff, but what about on the human level, right? Like, it's deeper than just that too. So I think that the empathy part of it is really important to the conversations that people are having. Like, how are we relating to one another? Someone may have had it worse than me, but how I processed it and how I felt those things was probably at the same degree as them. I don't know. It's obviously subjective, right? However, at the end of the day, empathy and humanity should be at the core of it all.
Which is the thing, though, that a lot of people don't care about things that don't affect them. And that's what it kind of boils back to, because
everything
affects
everyone.
But you see, it's like, if it doesn't affect you negatively,
Or
you
directly.
you don't care. And it's like, a lot of people, they post about things that happen in other countries, and like, I mean, even like what happened in Lebanon, and you know, they make a post, but do you, like, what else do you do? Like, you just reshare the post to kind of check it off your list. You know, I support all these things that's going on, but you're unaffected because your country, where you live, didn't get bombed up. You don't have relatives over there. So it's like, I think that's what really lacks, is that people, you empathize in the sense of like you feel the pain to some level, but you're not affected, you don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like, just to your original question about safe spaces, and I guess I already kind of talked about it, but I think, like, for me, one of the main reasons why I don't, like, it's not that I'm against them, but I don't think that it's going to help people, is that if your goal is to be in a safe space to actually heal, I think that that's great, but like, to exclude other races or other people that differ from you out of fear that they might say something that you don't like, I feel like that, like, I understand why people do that, but if their goal is to try and overcome whatever happened to them, I don't think that that's the best way to go about it. And you made a really good point where if something happens to you, you don't go to people that don't have the answers, right? Like, if I have a problem with a test that I'm not prepared for, I'm not gonna meet with people that also don't know the answers. I'm gonna find people that have taken the test or are really, knowledgeable about the course, and I surround myself with that people. So if people are going to go into safe spaces, I think it should be more of a productive space to help them, because if they are traumatized by something, they should get help and they should surround themselves with people that are going to be supportive. But I from what I've seen, I don't think that they're being productive. I think it's like denying people access to a point where it's kind of racist, in my opinion. Like, to say that, like, I'm making a group where only Black people can go in because someone said something that was racist to me, and no white people or Indian or Asian or whatever people can come in, to me, and you played that clip of Martin Luther King Jr., that to me seems like completely contrary to what he wanted. He didn't want everyone to have their own space, and how you identify yourself, only those people can go in. Because it's like, maybe I'm Black, someone was racist to me, I want a safe space, but what's to say that, like, an Indian person or a white person or a whatever person didn't also have a racist encounter, and I could obviously learn from them. So to say that, like, only Black people will understand what I feel because I identify as being Black, it might help in some scenarios, but I don't think that that's a good model to go off of to, like, help cure people of their trauma, specifically for, like, racism.
I feel like it kind of goes back to what Liz said, where it's like, I don't think it's like the end goal should be that you stay in that, like, hub and only talk to, like, Black people about Black problems.
But to me, that is ultimately what will happen. And it was the example I gave earlier. If you have some kind of trauma, you shouldn't shield yourself forever from it, right? Because
Not
if you
forever,
do that,
but for, like, a little bit.
like, but think about, okay,
but that is what safe
think
spaces
about
do.
when you, like, have an issue, like, who do you tell first? Like, you probably tell a friend or someone close to you that can empathize with you. You don't just go telling everyone at once. So I think it's like the same thing.
But I think like a big thing is that, like, if you're of a certain race, you're not going to experience the same racism as somebody else also. And then if you look at different groups, like, I guess, so if somebody's trans and they're not going to have the same issue or face the same, like, transphobia as somebody else. And that's just kind of what it is. Like,
doesn't mean you can't learn something from them.
But it's just not comparable, and nobody else is really going to understand that. So if you have, like, a Black person and a trans person talking, like, their experiences are extremely different, and somebody's maybe way more traumatic and they can't understand that, and they want to be able to talk to somebody else about it.
I think a safe space is meant for representation. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be, okay, we're victims of, generational trauma, this, that. Like, it doesn't always have to be so heavy. I think a safe space can also be like a collective space where women of color or trans people or whoever it is, whatever that organization may be, celebrate one another and do so because they know of, the hardships that they face, and they find kinship in that. The experience might not necessarily be the same, but as people of color here, we obviously have similar experiences that we can bounce off of and relate to, and we've created a safe space where, you said you were white, like, you're still in this space, and it's still a safe space enough that we're able to have a discussion with you as well, and you're able to share your thoughts and your opinions.